Janji, the next question is to do with actually kind of related to, since we're talking about, Vedanta and so on. This is interesting because I think I've heard you mention this in one of your talks before, where you talk about the story of the two birds, the two birds from Mundaka Upanishad. And it's a very interesting story, and how it connects to quantum physics. You've made that connection. So could you please talk about that? Because I think that would be of a lot of interest to our viewers.
Okay. Yeah, so I did speak about Mundaka Upanishad and the two birds, which is a way of explaining why we notice the sensorium as being real, while Advaita Vedanta, the Upanishads tell us that it's all transient. So it's all pulsations. So when we take up Advaita Vedanta, it becomes a little bit too abstract. So I use the thread coming out of Advaita Vedanta in Kashmir Shaivism and Sri Vidya of spandana, of pulsations, to talk about what being human is. So I'll first talk about that. Then I'll show how quantum physics tries to explain that from the other end, and why, at least from the perspective that I have, that is inadequate and doesn't go far enough. So there is Sakshi Bhava. The Sakshi Bhava is the observer, that capacity, that capability to observe. Okay, and it's the Sakshi Bhava that enlivens the buddhi, the consciousness, that chitta that the buddhi has is because the observer gives it that ability, that pulsation. And then come the jnanendriyas, and then the karmendriyas. So the sense functions that we have, the five senses, right? They interact with other pulsations. So think of it this way. Here's the human pulsation, which itself consists of minor pulsations within that, and we are floating in an infinite ocean of pulsations. Okay, if you can imagine that, and then say, here's just this one little pulsation called the human pulsation, and it's able to interact with other pulsations around it in a very narrow way through its sense functions. So it captures the fluttering aspects of the pulsations around it, right? And when it presents those interactions, that phenomena to the buddhi, right? It's at that stage that it becomes static. Okay, so all of a sudden, these things out there, which are actually just fluttering pulsations, okay, they become form, they become roop. For the first time, they become roop. From spandana, they become roop. Yeah, and then the buddhi starts giving it names, so it becomes namarup.
Namarupa, correct.
So in the process of becoming Namrup, then it creates memories, and then it creates frameworks and meanings around.
The story of the 6 blind men feeling different parts of the elephant, and
exactly. So so the meanings are created around it, and then we start living in it. We start living in the Namarup framework, the meanings that we create out of it, right? So where did we start? It's all pulsations. It's all transient. It's all changing all the time, right? And yet we see it as matter. How? It's in our minds that we see it as matter. So the Upanishads and the particular darshan of Advaita Vedanta, okay, has, as far as I know, I have seen, okay, whether it's Dvaita or Vishishta Dvaita or Sankhya, etc. Advaita Vedanta seems to have the maximum capacity of explanatory power. It has the maximum explanatory power. Okay. Now, when I'm communicating it, I use one of its threads, as I said, Sri Vidya, Kashmir Shaivism, because it's easier to explain.
If I may interject, Jayanji, so I don't know this, but are Sri Vidya and Kashmir Shaivism offshoots, or shall we say threads of, like you say, of
Advaita Vedanta. Yes.
Vedanta? Okay.
Yeah. So that's basically they are because then the question comes up. You see, if you go to pure Advait, and I don't want to go too deep into it,
Yeah.
it can be confusing. Whether everything is Atma, everything is Anatma, etc., and the practical aspects, because which we talked about how practical things are, right? Whether it's in the Bhagavad Gita or Lalita Sahasranam, very practical stuff, right? And not to make it too esoteric, but this question allows us to see what immense explanatory power this particular darshana, the way of looking at this. Okay, so the two birds that we are talking about is basically the Sakshi Bhava, okay, the observer bird, right? And the Ahamkara. The Ahamkara is the actor bird.
Actor bird.
Right. Okay. And the Ahamkara, right? When we drop the veil of avidya, okay, the Ahamkara forgets that we have that Ahamkara capacity of saying aham, right? Of cognizing and being aware of ourselves because of Sakshi, right? That veil falls, right? We think we are the greatest, we are the ones who are acting, and we become the eater bird, right? So we are eating the experiences that are delivered to us by our sense functions.
So the actor bird is actually eating on a fruit, right? In the story, the Sakshi bird is watching, and the actor bird is enjoying the fruit.
They're enjoying the fruit, and this fruit is all these external pulsations, right, which have been delivered to the actor bird by the sense functions.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Right. So there is this whole process.
Yes. Sorry to. So how does this connect to quantum physics? Okay.
So quantum physics also has this. So somewhere along the line, when they started observing, and they thought Newton had it all right with the laws of physics, etc. Okay, but even the simplest things, they came across this three-body problem, which they couldn't explain, and they still can't explain, and they had to find a way to explain it. The three-body problem being, you have the Earth, Sun, and Moon. Okay, and the orbits of the Earth, Sun, and Moon, we can't really predict, given any functions that Newton has, or you say it's something like gravity, right? There are so many moving parts; it cannot be explained.
You mean the Earth, Moon, and Sun cannot be explained via Newton's laws?
No, yeah, exactly. There are so many wobbles around it; it can't be explained. Okay, so that was the first starting point, and you can't explain why the masses, the orbits are of a certain way, why the cosmos moves in a certain way, etc. And they couldn't explain what the space and time was. Okay, because they seem to move in space, right? And are they really moving in space? And what is this thing called time? So in their model, where quantum physics has started, is by saying what the sense function, what we see as sense function, whatever we observe is real. Matter is real. Okay, so we start from this end, right, and say everything out there is transient. They say that is all real, and they try to explain it. How do they try to explain it? Through observation, right? In their model, they don't have to bring in, they are oblivious of the sense functions. They're oblivious of buddhi, right? They take the mental models they build of the mathematics, right? Mathematics is a language that the buddhi produces. That's how Vedanta teaches us. The Vedanta teaches us the whole process. Quantum physics takes it all as real. They can't make sense. People, and that's one of the things that's happened. We Indians take mathematics as something really great. Our ancestors didn't. Ganit is just one of the things. Okay, right?
I mean, there was a
We
distinction.
put physicists on pedestals. All they're doing is coming up with little bits of mathematical language put in certain forms, okay, and they try to explain the phenomena that the sense functions are delivering. Okay.
So they haven't really, yeah. So, like for example, I think this brings to mind, or I mean, I remember reading somewhere that according to us, all of the knowledge systems that there are merely vijnanam. You know, whether it is ganit or whether it is astronomy, but jnana is only the knowledge of the self. Only so jnana, the word jnana cannot be applied to any other field of knowledge. Which are just merely disciplines, and probably the term Vigyan applies to them, whereas the other or the technology thereof. Whereas Jnana is only the word Jnana can only be applied to the knowledge of the self, is what I read somewhere.
Yeah, so some people turn it around also. So I don't want to go into that, whether it's, yeah, so there is a differentiation of gradations of jnana, shall we say. Okay, so para is also used, for example.
Para,
right. So you will call someone a paridjnani, and paridjnana ashram comes from that, right? Paridjnani, one who knows, right?
Beyond.
So beyond, quote unquote, beyond what? Beyond buddhi, right? We are beyond buddhi, and buddhi is buddhi can only go and be able to understand what is delivered to it by the sense functions. Okay, so Vedanta forces us to think through in this supply chain process, shall we say? Every step of the way. It does not allow you to say, okay, I'm going to take it. If you don the hat of a Vedantin, you have to do this. You have to deconstruct everything in terms of this process. Okay, I'm not saying every one of us has to do it. When we sit on a meditation seat, this is what the contemplation is. This is what Sravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam is, right? And so, yeah, so quantum physicists, any physicist, that's why they're continually confused. You go and look, there are controversies right now. Say, you know, maybe we should stop theorizing. This can't be done. Right? Theoretical physics is at a dead end, and so forth. Because what is theoretical physics? It's basically mental models, and mental models are transient. Okay, the mental models themselves are transient, and they are describing something even more transient. The farther away you go from Sakshi, the more transient it is.
So you're saying that quantum physics is moving away from Sakshi. Is that what you're saying?
The attempt being made is to generate mental models, mathematical models, which is a language. Okay, a symbolic language to describe a phenomena which is transient. So both are transient. Okay, the phenomena is very transient. Even the mathematical models are transient.
Will keep changing.
Okay, they will keep changing. Okay, and so when it comes to this fallibility, okay, they make a big deal. Oh, Karl Popper taught us about fallibility, what science is, and it has to be fallible, etc. From Vedanta perspective, it was always fallible. What's the big deal? Right? We knew it was fallible, right? Remember, Ma Phaleshu Kadachana, we know we were in the probabilistic world. They did not. They rediscovered it. They rediscovered it, and they think they are the ones who have discovered it.
Correct.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.